Hello, and welcome to the Bot Nirvana podcast, where we dive into all things software automation. I'm your host, Nandan Mullakra. While I'm not podcasting, I write articles on nandan.info. I hope you enjoyed the show. Let's get right into it. Today we have Babu Sivadasan. He is the co-founder and CEO at Jiffy.ai. Jiffy AI is an app-based automation platform. These apps, or Hyperapps as Jiffy calls them, uses a low-code approach to unleash the power of RPA and AI for your enterprise automation. This was an interesting conversation where we discussed about Jiffy's unique socially responsible innovation combined with Hyperapps. I started out by asking Babu the history of Jiffy AI and its parent entity, Painini.
Nandan, thank you for having me again. Appreciate the opportunity to discuss Jiffy.ai. We've been, if you look at last 25 years, I spent all my life, creating jobs, right? So I struggled to find my first job. When you struggle quite a bit, at some point, you wake up and say, okay, maybe you got to do things differently. You're looking at the problem differently. And that led me to a journey of entrepreneurialism. And, I would say I'm an accidental entrepreneur. And it just, out of necessity, when you can't find a job, you start thinking about creating one for yourself, and then you start thinking about, okay, can I do that for others too, right? So 25 years, I built, played an integral part of two public companies, and starting from the ground up, from the garage, with those early days, fun, difficult path, but then eventually you, along the way, you figure it out, right? But then if you look at the last 10 years or so, right, what's happening, with the explosion of AI technologies, a lot of the things, that we take for granted, a lot of the jobs, that we take for granted, will go through massive amount of disruption to those, right? So, and we wanted to be an AI company, we wanted to build an AI company, and but then the reality is, what you do disrupts the things that are done today, right? So I've never enjoyed that, that side of it, the disruption side of it. So thought a lot about how do you try to, AI is change, AI is the future, right? So how do you try to balance the two, right? How do you try to bring disruptive change to computing, but at the same time try to do it in a way that is responsible, right? So that, you do quite a bit of soul searching on that, and you one day you figure out, okay, well, there is a way to do it. So the way that we figured out, along with my co-founders, is that, hey, what we could do is, create a unique corporate structure, which is a combination of a for-profit and a non-profit at the same time, and try and advanced computing, because the technology is like, what we do, right? That costs a lot of capital. So so it needs to be a for-profit enterprise, because shareholders need a return for the risk that they take, and for the employees and for the founders, there is a risk, significant amount of risk that you take, so you need reward for that. But then it's in the how much, right? So we figured out, from day one, we wanted to make sure that we have a corporate structure where the non-profit, which is tasked with the responsibility to retrain or do something about the disruption that you cause. So you kind of create a structure, right, where that was the bigger component. So we wouldn't attract people. We attract people for the mission that we stand for. Like, we wanted to take on this responsible innovation, and so we tend to get people who believe in that, and so we all own a small piece of the company, right? But we are in it for the mission that we pursue, right? And we've been extremely fortunate about getting a number of investors, people who have built iconic companies, to believe, that was a good path. That was, what I do know is, when you're 67, you retire, and you look back at the journey that you've undertaken. I wanted to really feel good about it, good about looking back, when you cannot change things, right? Looking back and feeling really proud of the journey that you've undertaken. So we've committed ourselves to 20 years to build a fabulous enterprise, and we believe AI is the future. We believe computing as we know it today will significantly change for the better, right? And we need to embrace the change, but at the same time do it in a way that is very compassionate. So our mantra is innovation with compassion. So that's and Jiffy, the company name is Panini, right? And Jiff.ai is our product brand. So that's what represents the platform, and all the things that we our core capabilities and things like that. The whole platform is known as Jiffy.ai, and that's the brand that we go with. And so we have a foundation called Panini Foundation, and that is in the early stages of working, figuring out how do we embrace this change, and how do we work with the right universities, crafting programs together, and trying to figure that right combination. So far, we have not created any disruption that is meaningful. I have to be honest about it. We are just a small company in our early stages of our journey, but we are extremely humbled by the response that we have gotten from some Fortune companies, to our product and what we stand for. And we are just on that early stages of our journey. And if you are looking at a space, like RPA is one component of what we do. But if you look at a space like that, where heavily capitalized companies in that mix, and that's something you would normally try to avoid, but that hasn't prevented us from making meaningful progress. So very excited about the progress that we made so far.
Great. Responsible innovation. I like that. And I think it's a need of the hour, because, our messaging of, like you say, disruption, and then disruption taking over jobs, which has actually impacted the scaling of it a bit, right? Because people resist when you see such technologies coming in. So it's good to see a socially responsible message of a responsible innovation. So from a Jiffy AI perspective, so responsible innovation is one of your key points that you stand out for. And what else do you think Jiffy brings to the table, which is attracting people like AirAsia to your platform?
Yeah, so two key components. We believe we have a fabulous product. Especially we are beyond RPA. The intelligent cognitive automation platform, and an innovation platform. So what you would see happening is that RPA and some of these technologies will evolve into more of a how do you quickly deploy new pieces of workflows, or new operating infrastructure together, new pieces of functionality together, and deploy them in almost real-time manner, right? So and we have a solid foundation towards that. We haven't fully worked out everything yet, but we have a solid platform that has deep document understanding. That's something, various types of documents, structured, semi-structured, unstructured. Those are areas we excel at, using our machine learning algorithms and things like that. And we've had the luxury, I would say, since we started late, we had the luxury of imagining how it should be built from the ground up, using AI technologies, rather than AI being a punchline, if you will. Like, you add on top and call, you can't just simply call something, that is not AI as AI, right? So whereas we've had that luxury of, reimagining, building from the ground up, with a bunch of AI, tiny AI innovations, so, and then that forms the foundation. And then we have also had, from day one, we had this notion of uh, hyperapps. The industry, I believe, is getting catching up to that kind of an approach, which is automation, where you're looking at end-to-end stack automation, right? So you have engaging user experience on the front end, which is the consumer, and then fully automated middle and back office capabilities. So you look at whether it is mortgage processing, or whether it is client onboarding, you see that happening, where you want a very, very engaging end client experience, right? But then once it comes within the enterprise, it's autonomous. So that's how we define, that's how we built our stack. So that's what we see happening, and that's the differentiator. So we very deep cognitive abilities is an area that we specialize in.
Yeah, and I did see that you've got a very deep AI in your platform, and I saw your demo, especially the data cleansing and various parts, which is missing in other platforms, and also the whole hyper app approach, where from a portal you can actually go to each app, which I think can scale up, right, and then help people who want to use the apps while also supporting them in a meaningful way. Okay, great. So I think with AI as the core, and you've started late, so you've have this machine learning workbench and a whole suite of AI-led automation products. Which industries are you finding more traction, and how are they using it?
Right. So when we started, we put a business plan together, and we said, we will only be in financial services, because that I spent 25 years in financial services, and a bunch of us come from financial services, deep background in that space, So, but then that's what the beauty of a startup is, right? You start and things take its own turn as you get an opportunity or so. So today we are in 4 different verticals, and we are, financial services will be a core part of our vertical that we will be focused on. But we are in telecom, we are in travel and transportation, where we have been very fortunate with some leading clients. We are in retail, so and manufacturing as well. So it's just we believe we have a standard piece of technology that is horizontally applicable, but then we also go deep into a vertical with Hyperapps, that are focused on that vertical. So we have very early in our journey, we believe, people ask us, can you focus on multiple verticals at the same time? We believe we can, and we'll we are very thoughtful about entering a vertical, and we wanted to make sure we have the right people, and we have the unique luxury of having a large team of founding team, that comes with expertise in various verticals, and so that's a luxury to have as well.
Okay, so from a Jiffy perspective, the hyper apps seems to be one of the key areas that you guys are focusing on. So what does your roadmap look like? Are you going to develop on hyper apps? Are you going to get into other areas? What's your plan?
Yeah, so we continue to be big believers in hyper apps. So you will see more and more hyper apps being rolled out as we go deep with clients. You will also see us evolving into more of a truly innovation platform, if you will, right? Which is you have an idea, you want to implement within the enterprise. Enterprises, and if you look at it, you build applications that don't look good, that you get you're used to great consumer experience. If you go and experience, massively popular consumer tools, they all look great. They give you that extremely pleasing experience. And then you go and look at the enterprises, what you run on, you see, uh, you know, user experience is probably the last thing, that people worried about when creating those applications. So, and it doesn't, enterprises deserve better, and you have all kinds of legacy there, and all kinds of even modern applications, that were built as recent as last few years, don't really give you that great experience, that you feel like, okay, well, as an enterprise user, right? You have that great experience, that you feel happy about.
So the customer experience part, that was very interesting, because that's something I've seen really lagging behind in most of the enterprise software.
Right.
And on that point, I just wanted to ask you about the new competitors coming into this arena, right? We have got, especially from Silicon Valley, no-code automation providers coming in. And there are also low-code, very low-code. So no-code like Catalytic, it's not Catalytic. Yeah. It's from Midwest, but there are many other options from the Silicon Valley now, no code automation, as well as there is low code options like DPA providers. So what are your thoughts on that movement and how that will help automation?
Right. So we are big believers in no code or low code automation, right? And so we are one of them, right? And so we are an automation platform, but at the same time, we are a low-code enterprise application development platform as well. So it's and we believe the two will merge. Because at the end of the day, whether you're doing automation or what businesses need is a really Hyperapps, end-to-end automation, right? And so if you look at just task-based automation, that doesn't really provide meaningful lift to the enterprise. So you need end-to-end automation, and when you talk about end-to-end automation, you would ask the question, so where is the user interface and engaging user interface coming into play, right? And so you look at various business processes. Typically, you start looking at the business process from the moment it shows up on your enterprise. So things happen outside of that, and then you start measuring and managing from the point at which it shows up at your enterprise, and then you try to automate the rest of the middle and back office functions. But that doesn't fully give that. While that is extremely important, right? So you need to look at the process end to end, where the consumer, there's a consumer experience part of it as well, right? Because at the end of the day, consumer doesn't see whether you do something manually within your enterprise or automated. Consumer doesn't really see unless it introduces delays in servicing and things like that. But other than that, it is a problem that the end consumer does not see, right? Whereas when you look at the next generation applications, you would see that end-to-end stack being automated, right? Where you would have an engaging client experience, right? But then automated middle and back office experience. So you provide end-to-end lift to the consumer, which is ultimately all these business processes, indirectly serving that consumer, and you provide that lift end-to-end, and in the process, make the whole process extremely efficient.
Okay, so from a low code and no code perspective, you're thinking everything will come together. It'll all be together. I mean, by one estimate, there are around 500 automation platforms there.
Right. So you would create functionality, right? Where you may say, well, I want to engage with the consumer to do this, and then take that input and then automatically process that on the back end. So you could do any combination of those, or somewhere along the way you would want to go back to the consumer and get the validation, or present more information, or engage. So there's engagement, end user engagement, and automation of the rest of the stuff. They kind of go hand in hand. So when I say consumer more broadly, it could be an internal user as well, right? But it is in general that engagement, because sometimes the automation, you may not be able to cognitively determine certain things, that you may want to get that feedback. So we look at human in the loop more broadly, including a consumer engagement.
Okay. So human in the loop, that's an interesting concept. And AI always needs some human in the loop, at least for now, if you look at autonomous cars or any of those things.
Yeah.
So where do you see this going in terms of job opportunities? Because I wanted to bring it back to that, because Panini stands for that, right? You want to be responsible. So where do you see this going, especially on that front? So I know you're going in Hyperapps, and that's a modern technology, and you want that to be easily usable. And then how about the people using it, and how do you plan to train people not to have many redundant people in the organization, right?
Yeah. So most organizations have so if you look at organizations in general, the number one problem that if you talk to many organizations, they'll say that we don't have enough quality people for the needs that they have, right? So so there are certain jobs that are in need, but they're not finding quality people, so nobody's investing in it. So most organizations do have opportunities. So what is needed is this transition, figuring out, training, retraining people for the set of jobs that they themselves have. So, but it takes commitment to retrain, commitment to invest in them, right? And that's where so when we talk to organizations about it, that's where we start. So where are your difficulties? Where are the areas that you're finding talent to be not something that we can easily find, and then how do we get to various intermediate types of jobs that are available today, right? So finding who can be trained to get fit into those jobs. So that is a prioritization of investing back into people, and trying to figure out where you could redeploy them. So it's a commitment that many organizations will make as they transition, and we see that as a partnership with those firms where we could invest. We will craft programs because normally what happens is these are not programs that are readily available as a course outside, right? Because you have some internal needs that are very unique to you, and then somebody needs to invest and retrain people for that. So those are the kind of things that will be the most obvious ones. That doesn't fully solve all the problems, but those would be the most obvious ones, where it'll be industry focused training, where you would craft very specific programs by industry. And then the other things are where the future is going, right? Where the big new set of jobs that are out there, and that nobody has real visibility into that. We are space technology, people talk about that renewable energy being another focus area. These are things that jury is still out. We'll have to see. I would be lying if I claim that we have figured out all the future jobs. Nobody has figured it out. But at least what is needed right now in our belief is an in problem head on. and start making commitments towards that. And we are just trying to do that.
Okay, good. So you start with the areas where organizations have problems with the talent, and
Yeah.
and then try to fill in those areas. And I've seen this a lot in terms of people holding up, people are not hiring, and where they find it are unable to hire basically, and where they find it difficult to hire, you can automate, right? That's one area. And then people who are there in the positions, they can probably be upskilled or retrained for new positions. Okay, that's good to see. And as you say, the jury is still out on terms of how these things will look, but we are doing our best, right, as part of the industry. So I just want to switch tracks and ask you about the pricing of Jiffy. And do you see that evolving now with a lot of cloud providers joining the fray for RPA?
Yeah, so we focus less on the bot-based approach. So we since we focus more on the Hyperapps, so we know the value that we bring to the table, right? So like the bot-based pricing of the problem, is that it's hard to quantify the value, right? So when you say, how do you tell a client that you need 5 bots? You're artificially constrained. It's all compute, right? So you cannot artificially constrain and say that you got to buy more bots. So that's why we never liked it that way. So we from day one our approach has been that okay, let's instead focus on the value that we provide end to end, and there is a market clearing price for that. If you're talking about invoice processing, organizations, there is research out there. Anywhere from $10 to $20 per invoice, organizations do spend. So when you come in with $1 or something like that, that is tremendous amount of value that people can relate to, right? So that's how we look at our notion of a hyper app. That solves a specific problem, right? So if it and for that, there is a market clearing. I mean, you're able to relate to. So a person making the economic decision to buy is able to relate to the value right now, rather than the artificially constrained bot-based pricing. Now we do occasionally run into bot-based pricing. Where in a competitive situation where the client's mindset has already been that okay, well, I'm going to invest based on the number of bots, and in which case we coexist with that kind of. So we predominantly our pricing is more hyper app based, but we do have relationships where it is spot based as well. But we do think that is temporary, right? Now we see more of a value based pricing, that goes with trying to solve specific hyper app based solutions.
That's very interesting. That's very good, and because it even is even better than even the cloud providers who just say use it again, bot based pricing like what Microsoft has got. So that's very interesting.
Now I do see that so their way of pricing that is probably applicable for an attended, maybe where you're selling based on the number of users, that you're putting it in front of the desktop of each of those people. But that's where the industry sometimes confuses itself, because that's a different market and different need. It's a productivity tools market, and you're trying to confuse the market by doing that, and then calling it a business process automation, right? Because they may be participating in some business processes, but that doesn't really transform the process. And if you're automating based on a bunch of desktop automation as a way of transforming a process, that's all. You're only plugging the gaps. It's not real transformation. So that's the so we focus more on the end-to-end business process automation, where organizations generally derive value, right? In the true power of automation, like the desktop-based automation, there is value to that as well, but no, that's a different market. We don't tend to focus on that market, and that's a market Microsoft or somebody will kind of dominate, and we try to stay away from that.
Okay, well, that's an interesting thought, because Microsoft and Satya always says that he wants to build the ultimate productivity platform.
Right.
Includes all that what he has, Office 365 and SharePoint and all these things, including the Power Automation now. So
right.
That's very interesting. So yeah, I mean that's a good point. So that's great. Great to know that you guys have a longer term vision and you want to transform business processes end to end, as well as being socially responsible.
Right. That's exactly how we see our role, and it's an exciting place to be in, because enterprise computing as we know today, and if you imagine 10 years from, even 10 years from, it will look very drastically different. And 20 years, we think it'll be that fully autonomous enterprise. That we all think that's a possibility. That will be a possibility. So we want to see that journey through.
Yeah, and probably we'll be sitting somewhere on a beach, and the bots will be doing the work, right?
Computers will do the work.
Okay, good. So just before we go, I just wanted to ask you about the pandemic that we are in.
Yeah.
We talked about it just before we started the podcast. But how do you see that impacting automation, and how that could probably accelerate to that future of a more digital, automated future?
Yeah. So pandemic really transformed the way we work. As you know, we've all worked from home, and if you're in the Valley, so we've all we've been trendsetters in terms of working from home, and so the information technology industry has been at the forefront of that. But still, we have this mental block, right? Which is we got to be if you have to have a meaningful, productive meeting, you got to be together in the office. In fact, there are organizations that said for us to advance to the next phase, we are banning work from home policies, and Yahoo did that at some point, right? But this transformation of the way we work, it is a big change, for many industries. Industries that traditionally couldn't even have imagined working from any place other than financial services is a great example, right? So if you are an outsourcer, right, to a financial services firm, you have these operating units where you have cameras all over the place, and you are literally in the white floor or white rooms. That's where and that's the only place where work can be done, right? Whereas now a lot of that people are finding alternate ways while giving the same amount of security or close to that. That comes with this kind of secure environments, which is a physical place, and now that is moving to wherever people are going to be. It will accelerate the trend towards that eventual. People want to be happy where they want. They want to live where they like, and work from where they like, and be happy. And be very, very productive. So you definitely see that across all industries. So that is we are forced to it, and that's, I believe, a irreversible change. So you would see that, and in our business, obviously we are in our second year of operation, and we are, as you get into just when things were, you start the year and then you're hit with this, and you expect, you think, okay, everything is going down. Very, very for a small company, it's very hard to be faced with those challenges, right? So, but what we have seen is, automation. Many organizations have woken up and said, okay, we cannot have a fundamental assumption that our business will survive survival of our business is dependent on people being in the office, working from home, right? Working from office, and that's the only way things get done. That fundamental assumption has been changed. That's not the new normal. So as a result, now what we're going to see is, many organizations are doubling down on automations, and we have personally, ourselves at Jiffy.ai, we have seen that. We've had fabulous latter part of the year, business activity, and our phones have been ringing like never before, right? So we've had the busiest of our times in the last couple of years that we can imagine. So automation is here to stay, and a lot of the applications, especially within the enterprise, people are going to look at it and say, okay, well, let's reimagine. So it'll accelerate the transformation. Transformation has been a journey that has been on for a while, but it just accelerates them, more, and that's a great thing, so.
Okay, good. So that's a good positive note to end on.
Thank you for joining the Bot Nirvana podcast. Appreciate if you can leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Catch the show notes on botnirvana.org. While you're there, feel free to explore more automation ideas, tutorials, tools, and more. See you next time.